There are 10 habits that keep my life happy, healthy, and running smoothly. In this video, I will tell you about 3 habits in the movement area, 3 food habits, and 4 mind habits. In each area, there is habits that I do every day and 1 habit that I do once a week. The daily habits could be almost anything you want. Mine are just there for inspiration, but the weekly habits you will probably want to copy just the way they are. They are what makes everything else fall into place. What's a healthy habit that keeps you going? I would love to know, and I bet your sharing will inspire some other people to make really positive changes in their lives, so please comment below. Let's start with the movement habits. Habit number 1 is to go for a walk every day. When my kids were smaller, I would walk with them to school and back every day, and that would bring me at least like 3,000 to 5,000 steps without really even trying. But now that they're bigger, they're walking to school on their own, I'm still working from home, and I'm not getting as many steps as before, so I have to make an intentional commitment to just go outside. I go rain or shine, which living in Vancouver means it's more often rain than shine, but I just need a proper rain jacket and it does the trick. There's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear, right? I especially like to go with a friend or a neighbor who's also working from home, and it's also a great opportunity to have a phone conversation with a friend, have a little bit of social connection time. I also like going on my own, walking mindfully, taking in the passing seasons, the different colors, the different plants. There's always some kind of flower blooming any month of the year in Vancouver. It's a good way to stay connected with my environment and how nature is changing week to week. It's also the minimum amount of exercise that anybody should be doing. 10 to 20 minutes of moderate to vigorous walking outside is better, and the treadmill is okay, but it is the one really low-hanging fruit that almost anybody can do, and it makes a huge difference between being completely sedentary and having even just that small amount of exercise every day. It is one of the biggest improvements anybody can do to their health. My daily habit number 2 is more vigorous. It involves jumping rope between my work sessions. I work from home, as I mentioned, in bursts of about 50 minutes most of the time, and in my breaks, 10-minute breaks between sessions, I like to pick up my jump rope and jump, usually counting to about 100. Sometimes I throw in a few push-ups in there, but not all the time. And I aim to do that at least twice a day, sometimes 3 if I can pull it off. It really elevates my heart rate, of course, but also my mood and my energy. It's a little silly, but it makes me feel accomplished. Short walks and bursts of intense, vigorous cardio exercise are great. That's really important. But really the core of my fitness weekly habit is to go to Orange Theory. You don't have to do that specifically. What the habit is here for me is booking my workouts ahead. And whether you're going to a group class that you have to book and you put them in your calendar, or just looking at your own schedule and deciding that you go for runs, for example, or you're going to lift weights at home, whatever it is, make sure once a week to plan those workouts, put them in the calendar, and treat those commitments just like you would treat a dentist appointment, for example. It is at least as important. And the habit here, the weekly habit, is to do the planning. As I said, I go to Orange Theory. I book my workouts through the apps. Once a week, I book as far in the future as is possible. And usually once I've booked the sessions, I don't cancel. I have a task on my to-do list that springs up every week, and that's my reminder that I need to go on the app and book those workouts. Now let's talk about food habits. Habit number 4, which I do every day, is to prepare my breakfast for the next morning. I stack that habit to dinner, which inevitably happens. And so when dinner is finished, I tidy up the kitchen and I mix up my oats and chia seeds for the next morning. I keep my breakfast bowl on the stove, so when I'm wiping the kitchen counters clean, I see the bowl and I'm reminded it's time to prepare my ingredients. I always do the same thing. 2 tablespoons rolled oats, 2 tablespoons chia seeds, 1 tablespoon ground flax seeds, 1 tablespoon barberries, which I have discovered recently. They're really delicious, a little sweet, a little sour, and apparently they have great health benefits, but really I like them because they taste good and they're colorful, as well as cinnamon. And then I add soy milk with a little bit of water. I don't know why I like soy milk and water mixed together. When I get up in the morning, I just need to stir the bowl, microwave for a minute, 30 seconds, because I like them to be warm, and I add a handful of frozen blueberries, as well as sometimes some other fruit and walnuts, which add a bit of crunch. It makes for a super satisfying breakfast that is nutrient dense and hits a number of the boxes on Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. I have a full video on the habit of preparing my morning oats. It follows the framework of Atomic Habits by James Clear. Habit number 5, which I also do every day, is to compose a big nutritarian style salad for my lunch. I use this giant bowl from IKEA. It was like $2 and it's transformed my lunch habit. I cover the bottom of the bowl with a generous helping of something like power greens. I like to use spinach sometimes, but I just buy them pre-washed, no shame to that. And then I add a scoop of cooked grains, which I generally prepare on the weekend in my batch cooking sessions, and about half a package of smoked tofu, or sometimes I just use some kind of beans or any other kind of protein-dense food. So this really looks like the Green Food Guide. I will put a link to the Green Food Guide in the comments below. You can download the poster and it will remind you what to put on your plate. So I've discovered that I like my greens to be wilted, also no shame in that. So I put the whole bowl covered with a silicone lid in the microwave for about 2 minutes. It wilts the green, it warms up the grains and the tofu. Usually while that's in the microwave, I will prepare 1 or 2 other vegetables, either I grate a carrot or I dice half a bell pepper, something like that. If I have blueberries, not the frozen kind, or maybe slices of apple, any kind of fruit, a mandarin orange, it's all good. I prepare that, I throw that in the bowl when it's ready, and then I sprinkle with pumpkin seeds or hemp seeds or chopped almonds, some kind of nut or seed, and a drizzle of balsamic vinegar reduction. That is the lazy girl's dressing. It doesn't really get any simpler than that. Doing the whole thing takes less than 5 minutes because I've already got the grains ready and the tofu is ready to eat as well, or the beans. And it also checks about half the boxes on Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. It is full of nutrients. It does not make me feel heavy in the afternoon. I don't get sleepy after having eaten. And combined with the walk and sunshine, if there's any, it really gives me a lot of energy to continue my day. Now there's a weekly food habit as well, and that is doing my batch cooking during cooking club. In fact, I do this every other week, and I find that considering my lifestyle right now where I have my kids with me only every other week, so half the time I'm eating by myself, half the time I'm eating with them, I find that doing a big batch cooking session every 2 weeks is enough, but for many people it will be better to do it every week. It is the #1 way to enjoy a nutrient-dense and diverse diet of whole plant-based foods every week without having to cook so much at dinner time proper. Typically during a batch cooking session, I will prepare 1 or 2 simmered dishes. Sometimes I will use the slow cooker to get that going without having to pay too much attention to it. I cook some grains, as I was mentioning earlier, the brown rice or the quinoa, something like that. I also roast vegetables, or maybe I roast some kind of seasoned tofu, and I cut and prep some other vegetables. Maybe I mix a dressing if I'm feeling fancy, or whip up some kind of muffin or energy bars. And the way for me to make that happen is to show up at Cooking Club. Cooking Club is a free program that I started 3 or maybe 4 years ago. We get together on Zoom every other Sunday. Everybody is doing their own cooking as long as we're cooking plants. It's all good. So there's no set of recipes that we all follow. We all do our own thing. And while we're cooking, there's a little bit of talking and people ask each other for tips, suggestions for specific kitchen gadgets that people want to use and whatnot. It's just beautiful to have the camaraderie, the shared experience of wanting to cook whole plant foods, and above all, it is accountability for showing up for ourselves and getting the cooking done. Because there's honestly not that many people in the world that are committed to their health in such a way, and so having that space at Cooking Club where we find ourselves in the company of others who also care makes a really big difference. So I'm going to leave the link, again, Cooking Club, it's a free program, in the comments below. It's the weekly food habit that makes the most difference in my life, and I'm so thankful to everyone who joins us. Finally, the mind habits. Habit number 7 is a daily habit for me, and it involves writing a gratitude statement every morning. When I plan my day, I capture something that I feel grateful for. I try to keep it very specific, like thinking back to someone who helped me with the task that I had to do and I didn't know how. But also it can be something a little bit more general, like being grateful for my children's great health, or even for running water and the abundance of vegetables I can choose from at the grocery store. Those are all little things and big things that I don't take for granted, and I like to remind myself of how wonderful it is to have them in my life. Expressing gratitude helps me start the day on a positive note, and having that as a habit means that as I go through my day, I'm thinking ahead about things I can notice and use as a gratitude statement on the next day. So it is a virtuous circle. We know that having a positive mindset is associated with more longevity, and really, why not? There's no disadvantage to such a practice. Habit number 8 is critical for me, and it involves setting my priorities for the day. It is also a habit that I coach for. I have a number of clients who work with me to let me know every day what their priority for the day is, and it helps them stay accountable to do whatever it is that is really important to them. And otherwise, we just find ourselves in reaction mode, because if we don't even know what we want and need to do, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to attend to everybody else's desire, and what matters to us will end up being at the bottom and quite likely not get done at all. So that habit of setting my priorities for the day forces me to put my attention on what is important, and as much as possible, I deal with those tasks early in the day. Otherwise, it's just too easy to spend the day running around putting off fires. You might think of this as a productivity habit, and in many ways it is. However, it is also a health habit, because cutting back on the overwhelm, reducing the number of maybe not so important tasks that I do in the day to instead focus on what really matters, means that I'm keeping my stress down. Because we know that good stress management is a way to ward off chronic disease. So strongly recommend setting your priorities for the day. If you need a little bit of help getting started with that, feel free to ping me. I'm happy to coach people in that area to get the habit going. My 9th habit is reading. I read every day, at least first thing in the morning and last thing before I go to sleep. I usually read a few pages even before getting out of bed. I tend to keep a book that's focused on spirituality or creativity at the side of my bed. When I open my eyes, turn on the light, and I will read, just for 5 minutes to inspire me. And also it is replacing a habit that many of us have, and I admit that sometimes I do it too, which is picking up our phone first thing, and then before we know it, we've fallen down a rabbit hole on social media. At bedtime, usually I turn to fiction for the last 20 minutes of my day. I pick up something a little bit lighter, more entertaining, sometimes thought-provoking, but I avoid going too dark or some sad historic fiction. My top reason for doing this is that it brings me joy. I really love it. And when it's the end of the day, sometimes it's tempting to keep on wrapping loose ends and doing one more thing. And then I think, ooh, I get to go to bed and read a book. And that makes me really happy. And that alone is a great reason to read. But reading a book also serves other purposes. Reading a book first thing in the morning, long form, something we have intentionally chosen, prevents us from hopping into our phone, opening a social media app, and then getting bogged down for the rest of the day. Not only the time it spends to scroll, but also the negative feelings that are often stirred by going on social media. It is important to get some news, but we can do that intentionally later in the day, not just start our day like that. Scrolling social media is like going to the casino, endlessly pulling that handle in hopes that something that entertains us or even shocks us that we need to know will jump at us and reward us for having done all that scrolling. And really, the odds are not stacked in our favor. They are stacked in favor of the house and all the advertising that we're going to see that makes us feel bad about ourselves. So why do we keep on doing this? Anyway, it trains us to zone out, and it weakens our attention muscles that we need to understand everything that's complex in this world. And heaven knows that it's important that we do understand those things. Rarely when we read a book do we feel as icky and yucky as we feel after having been on social media for 20 minutes. Instead, I can make the choice of picking up a book that will leave me feeling uplifted. As for the evening reading, well, it gives me a reason to get excited about going to bed sooner, and also it saves me from being exposed to the blue light of screens from my phone or a tablet or the TV late into the evening, which could disrupt my sleep. And of course, reading books has cognitive benefits. It helps us ward off dementia, cognitive impairment, and maintains our vocabulary, our capacity to understand complex emotions and concepts. And it supports us in feeling greater empathy for other people, and just generally makes us feel more connected as opposed to isolated as we would feel if we were using social media instead. Now, the 10th habit is the most important of everything I have talked about, and I implore you to try it for yourself. It is the habit of doing a weekly plan and review session. Personally, it's the time when I reflect on the week that has just ended and prepare for the week ahead. Typically, I do this on Friday afternoon, maybe Sunday night, but even if it's Monday and I haven't done it yet, I do not skip this step. It is critical to keeping me organized, grounded, to feel less stress and more intention throughout the whole week. I go through this checklist that involves asking myself, what happened in the past week? What were some wins that I had? What were some positive experiences? What were areas of challenges? What could I have done instead? For example, I go through this really quickly. If I have more time, I can journal, but even just whatever is on top of my head at the moment of the review is quite useful. I also check my task list to make sure that there's nothing really important that I forgot about, and if I did, then I have to do something about it. Then I look at the week ahead, and I make sure that I'm aware of all the different commitments that I have on my calendar, what calls or what places I need to be at, what clients I'm going to meet with, what podcasts I'm going to be recording. If I need to do extra prep, I need to remember about that in advance, not at the last minute when it's about to happen. That also really decreases my stress, makes me feel more grounded, more intentional. That is really key. Having had that look at my calendar items, then I can think about the priorities that don't have a spot in my calendar. I can assess how much time I have to work. I make a list of things that are most important to me, and realistically there can't be more than 3, maybe 4 of those things. And then there's also the things that are not quite as important but still need to really get done. So an example of the most important thing might be to film a video, and something that is also important might be renewing my business license or some kind of administrative task that needs to happen this week. It's not like it should take the whole week and all of my attention, but I can't forget about it. Personally, I do this in a software called Obsidian, but you don't need anything special. I have also a template you can print out that you can use to start setting up your own system, your own questions that make sense to you. In my coaching practice, I have noticed that the most successful and well-grounded people tend to have a weekly habit of planning and reviewing their week. It makes a world of difference in terms of intentionality, productivity, and yes, stress management for health. It's also a good time to plan your meals for the week, because when you know what's on the calendar, you know at what point you're going to have time to cook and when it's going to be a rush of a dinner. And again, it gives the opportunity to make more intentional decisions about what we're going to eat. So those are my 10 habits, including movement, food, and mind habits, the ones that I do every day, the ones that I do every week. I would love to know if there's one of them that feels more attractive to you, maybe something you have tried already, or one that you would like to add to your own habit stack. Please comment below and I will be happy to respond to you and to learn more from your experience. Speaking of habits, in February, the book of the month of the Plant-Wise Book Club is Essential Zen Habits by Leo Babauta. It is a delightful little book and we will be talking about it. And most importantly, we are going to be practicing integrating new habits into our lives. If you would like to find a group of thoughtful, health-conscious people that care not just about reading books, but also about putting what they learn about into practice into their own lives, please consider joining us in the Plant-Wise Book Club. I'm going to put a link in the description below so you can learn more, and it would be wonderful to connect with you in there. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.